Right, where's your magic from? So let's talk about... I don't really use this card. Yeah, right there. Let's talk about information gathering. Restart position. Well, this is just mostly so that I don't have to worry too much about push blocking, right? So like at the start of a game, right, you, in theory, unless you're playing as someone you're familiar with, in which case obviously like you bring some preconceived notions in, are trying to figure out what your opponent does in each scenario. So like as Elisa, I'm always doing like this and moving because I want to see my opponent's like, I'm an actually player. I want to know if I'm just going to get a lot by just like moving and blocking, right? And so the best way to gather information is to reduce the number of options your opponent has in a situation, right? Because when the game is like this, right, I can do whatever. My opponent has like too many options. I can learn little bits of information, like if I jab and you backdash, I'm learning that you're trying to bait out a whiff. I'm learning you're playing quite passive, which means I have to play my role in the triangle there, which I assume people are familiar with the neutral triangle, but let's cover it in just very briefly. Hold on. Make a quick shitty die. Doesn't matter what you put at the top, right? You have like passive. Oh my god, what is it? It's like, or is it better to say keep out there? Let's say keep out. You go keep out, rush down, keep out beats rush down beats passive. Passive beats keep out, right? Do I have diagonal arrows? This is the basic idea, and this is like, if you ever pay a Metafy coach, this is the first thing they're going to teach you, right? So apologies to like Fergus and Richie who did exactly that for me. However, this is my shitty diagram. They'll give you better diagrams probably, right? So we have this very basic concept, and this is neutral. This is neutral, right? When people talk about having good neutral, it's this. It's this basic. Right? It's like if I'm trying to run in and push a button, because I want to start like frame pressure or something, right? And my opponent just pushes a fast mid check, right? Like in Elisa's case, back one, down forward four against a wave dash. The keep out's the keep out's gonna win because it's less risky. It's you're deciding you're dictating the pace there, right? So if I'm trying to play rushdown and my opponent's playing keep out, I need to switch my game plan now, right? I need to try and play passive, or it's probably better to say passive brackets with baiting, right? I like passive because in my head, that's talking about the behavior of my opponent, right? So, for example, let's go to our dummy here, right? And we're gonna have them standing guard and then backdash, right? So if I hit them with a shoe shine and they backdash, I know that when I put them in situations, or like here, I know that when I put them in situations like this, they don't want to engage. They want to be passive. Sorry, let me move this so that it's like less thingy, right? Right? So, say I do this, and my opponent backdashes, right? What I'm learning is that they're not going to fall for basic whiff creation techniques, right? But that does mean that they're being passive. They're not keeping me out, right? They're not trying to like push a fast button to stop me from coming in, right? They're playing passive, which means that it is now my job to play rush down. So I do like this, that, right? Because I'm trying to be like, okay, you don't want to play the game? That means it's my turn, right? It's still my turn, you know? right? Because they're afraid of getting whiff punished. And I've learned that by pressing down forward 4, right? And that's going to change a lot throughout the game. There's a really fantastic Magic the Gathering article, actually, called Who's the Beatdown? And I really recommend fighting game players read Who's the Beatdown, because I think if you take the concept of the neutral triangle and you, like, apply the concept of Who's the Beatdown, like, you get this really strong understanding of how to play neutral. Right? So the other thing is that when I do shoe shine, right, this is something Fergus taught me when I had my F5 session with him, is that after shoe shine, my opponent's in a situation where their options are so restricted, right? Because even when I do this, my opponent's not really restricted in options. They could sidestep, they could push buttons. I can learn a lot, but it's a lot of conjecture. Whereas when I have my opponent in this really, like this situation where their options are so restricted, I can use strong flowcharts, because there's two types of flowchart in Tekken. There are bad flowcharts, and there are good flowcharts, right? And it's about using them appropriately, right? Even a bad flowchart can be good if your opponent is sort of like thinking about higher level stuff. So I like to do shoe shine into down forward 4, because shoe shine into down forward 4 tells me a lot about how my opponent's going to react to this situation, because they'll either get clipped by it, in which case I know that they want to push a button after this situation, right? They want to try and check a bigger move, right? So then I can maybe go, okay, they want to push bigger moves, or they're going to try and stand block this because they got hit by it before. So I can try and magic 4 to get like a whiff here, right? Or if they just do nothing and they block it, it means I can go for a bigger mix. I can go for this, I can go for this, I can just go for another fucking shoe shine, right? Or they might, like, you know, they might backdash, in which case, like, again, I see that, right? So by doing this, I learn how my opponent's going to react when I have ambiguous plus frame situations, right? And then same deal with this. This is one of Lisa's key moves. This creates an ambiguous situation where although she's minus, it's really effectively a 0 game, right? Because my options are, it's a mix-up, basically, right? See Gaji's video to like further understand that. But if my opponent just backdashes, I know they're playing passive, right? This is the easiest situation to identify neutral, is when it's your turn to play rushdown, right? When you do something and your opponent just backdashes, rush them down. Hit that triple forward 2 and get your plus frames, right? And then it's a similar situation. Like, it's easy to identify when you are on, like, the other parts of the triangle, right? It's easy to identify when you should be rushing down, because your opponent will be sitting there doing nothing, right? And likewise, it's really easy to identify when you need to start being more passive, because your opponent starts doing preemptive moves to keep you out of their space, right? And you just have to keep assessing your role in an individual game of Tekken, and this becomes part of your autopilot. So it sounds kind of complicated, but, like, again, it will become part of your autopilot. And you can end up going from, like, it's not even like a linear triangle, right? Because your opponent can always try and, like, you know, one-up you here, right? So it's like, okay, I've baited you into thinking that I'm playing passive, right? So you're going to start rushing down, which means I can then come in with a surprise keep out, you know? Right? And, like, you know, that's the basic rock, paper, scissors, which is why you need to be thinking about using smaller moves that cover multiple options, right? That's why I was harping on about using the down forward 1, because down forward 1 can cover, like, you know, it covers keep out mostly, but it can also start your pressure if your opponent starts playing passive in the middle of that interaction, right? And it's why, in terms of my playstyle, I tend to prefer options that cover multiple options rather than bigger options, right? I love down forward 4 for that reason. I love back 1 for that reason. And it often means that I miss out on bigger plays, and that's something that I need to work on in my own playstyle, especially with the addition of this, right? But it does mean that my neutral is, like, I'm pretty good at playing neutral, because I'm strong at identifying those situations, creating situations that will give me that information that I need, and then I can use that, right? Does that make sense?